Did you catch that? Here it is zoomed in and slowed down. So this footage comes from a man named Todd Standing. He's pretty well known in the Bigfoot enthusiast community. He's filmed a few pretty famous alleged pieces of Sasquatch footage, including this one here, which according to him was his first close-up sighting with one of the creatures. After the creature left, Todd and some of his crew apparently made their way up the cliff to try and determine how big this thing really was, and to them it looked like the thing may have been well over 8 feet tall. This footage was famous enough to show up on an episode of Finding Bigfoot, where they tried to recreate the footage by having one of the bigger guys on the team stand on the same ledge so they could try and get a sense of the creature's size in the video, and what they found was that the thing in the video was noticeably taller and bulkier. But ultimately, they couldn't definitively say whether Todd Standing's video was genuine or a hoax. This next video comes from Dee's Dark Adventures on YouTube. Seems she had a run-in with someone or something lurking in the trees while on a hike one night in Ohio. It starts when she sees a pair of eyes glaring at her from the shadows. She gets rightfully spooked and decides to make her way out of the forest, but whatever was watching her follows her. She makes it into a clearing and spots the thing again staring at her from the tree line. See how high up the eyes go when it stands up? At this point, she's in full panic mode and screams for whatever it is to just stop, but then it comes out from the trees and she can't tell if what she's looking at is a human or an animal of some kind. Creepy video. I like how she sounds genuinely terrified and panicked. And because it's Ohio, gotta wonder if that is the Ohio Grassman. Kind of their version of Bigfoot. Watch our Ohio videos to learn more about that. This is a really cool video. I mean, that thing looks terrifying. So this footage was taken on a stationary camera. I don't think anyone's standing there filming this. At least that's what we're led to believe here. I guess the idea is this was taken on a game camera or something, but clearly we see this big hairy man beast crouching in the bush. And when it stands up, it starts slamming logs and branches around. I don't know about you, but this is how I actually picture Bigfoot looking. It has this almost human face, but of course covered in this mane of unkempt fur. It's a creepy video, and we get a look at the thing for a good long time too. And not that it would be impossible for a regular person to lift a dead tree like that and slam it into the ground, but if this is a hoax, the person in the suit is pretty strong. So this is an impressive hoax, if it is one. I don't know. This footage was taken in southern Ontario, Canada by YouTuber Timber Giant Bigfoot. It's become a pretty well-known piece of video, sometimes referred to as the Big Red footage. This guy had his camera on the creature for a good stretch of time. This isn't just some blurry figure walking through the woods from like a mile away. Now, whatever the thing is, it looks big and hairy. Also doesn't really appear to be a bear. There really only are black bears in this part of the country, and this thing does not look like a black bear. Anyway, he has a bit of a hard time keeping his camera on the thing because he's zooming in from a fair distance. I wouldn't want to get too close either. He films for a good few minutes before the big creature gets up and walks off. What you're looking at here is footage taken by cryptozoologist Paul Freeman. Paul Freeman is still regarded as one of the most important investigators in the Bigfoot community. This video was captured in the Blue Mountains of Northeast Oregon in 1994, and it's often referred to as one of the best pieces of Sasquatch video evidence. Aside from this video, Paul Freeman was also well known for his plaster casts he made out of supposed Bigfoot tracks. The casts were studied quite a bit because they showed dermal ridges, and anthropologists like Jeff Meldrum of Idaho State University considered the casts highly credible pieces of possible evidence and put a lot of time and effort into studying them. As for this video, is it genuine, a hoax? It could go either way, but I like that we get a pretty good look at the creature here, enough to see a bit of a face rather than just a dark blur somewhere off in the distance. Well, we can't really call this thing Bigfoot, Littlefoot maybe, Sasquatch Jr. This footage was posted by a woman named Stephanie Wood to the Bigfoot Believers Facebook group. In her post, Stephanie shared this blurry image of what she claims could be a baby Sasquatch, or a squatchlet, a term sometimes used to describe smaller, more elusive Bigfoot-like creatures. Along with the original photo, she posted a cropped close-up of the figure, saying that while the first instinct might be to dismiss it as a person in a costume, after a closer inspection, she's just not sure. She wrote, "Could this be a baby Sasquatch, or one of those hairy little people that pop up in reports every now and then?" Now, what I'd like to ask is Sorry, who are these little hairy people that pop up in reports every now and again? My brain needs to learn more about this. Anyway, some commenters are convinced by the photo, with one person claiming that the deer in the foreground really makes it more believable, and I gotta say, I didn't think of this at first, but I think I agree. It's not easy to get that close to a deer. They'll usually just have run off long before you get a chance to get this distance from it, let alone pose for a photo like this, but maybe deer are more comfortable with young Sasquatches. So I remember this one really creeping me out when I first saw it over a decade ago. The story here is that this video was taken in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, where residents had apparently been reporting strange sightings and eerie noises at night, with some even spotting a creature resembling Bigfoot. But this creature was different. It was described as being white in color, more like a yeti. One local homeowner managed to capture this video of the creature after hearing a disturbance in their backyard, which is surrounded by dense woods. Now, some people are kinda thrown by the cameraman's reaction here. He sees this furry white monster dashing through the trees at night, and his reaction is a pretty casual sounding, "What was that?" Well, some commenters disagree, saying the subdued reaction actually sounds pretty convincing. One commenter wrote, "As far as the reaction of the photographer, 'What was that?' it's not too hard to understand. When looking out in the darkness, things are not as easily recognizable. Also, he does not have the luxury of viewing the creature on YouTube in slow motion, and the mind barely has time to make a judgment of what it is." But what are your judgments on this one? Let us know down below. This video was taken in Algonquin Park, Ontario, Canada in 2010 with a bumper mounted GoPro. Zooming in and slowing things down, you can clearly see a large dark figure standing by the side of the road. Now, the video was taken by an unnamed man who sent it to the Ontario Wildlife Research Bigfoot group, who released it. One interesting point that a YouTuber named Snowwalker Prime made, who analyzed and reposted this footage, is that walking around in a gorilla suit in this neck of the woods really is ill-advised. You could easily get mistaken for a bear and get taken out by a hunter. So if this is a hoax, it's a kind of dangerous one. What I also like about this footage is that the original video was over an hour long. The guy filming apparently took lots of videos of his drives through the area. This was just one small piece edited down, and it just makes the footage a little more convincing. Plus, the figure does not look human. If that is a suit, it's a really good one. It's got those long arms, it's big, it's a good one. This video was taken in Alaska, posted to the YouTube channel Patua76, who wrote in the description, "I was on a logging road in Ketchikan hiking with my friend when I saw it. Boy, did my heart start racing. I was about 40 yards from the road, not sure if it knew I was there or not because of the noise flowing from water from the stream. It seemed to travel fast. It made my hair stand up. At one point you can see a whitish yellowish thing in its hand. You could see it jump, and after that point it just seems to disappear. There was a lot of brush and trees between it and I. I could not tell where it had gone. It was a scary, sort of exciting feeling at the same time. We went to search for tracks, but the riverbed where we thought it was walking was full of perfect skipping rocks. We found no prints." Now, after filming the creature walking behind a tree, the cameraman loses sight of it, and after scanning the trees for a bit, he decides to get out of there. And yeah, the last thing you'd want is to see a Bigfoot and then not know where it is around you. That's a scary idea. So I don't have a lot of info on this last one, only that it was captured by a group of hikers in Colorado. Take a look at this. Alright, so a pretty hectic video, right? The camera is shaky as hell. We only get a quick glimpse of the creature before it runs into the brush. But all the same, the thing does look massive. And let's be honest, if you found yourself in this situation, would you really be holding the camera perfectly steady and getting like Stanley Kubrick level steady shots of the thing? Yeah, probably not. I'd love to know more about this video, so if anyone has any info, let me know down below. And what are your thoughts on Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, and whatever other hairy creatures you know of?
This terrifying encounter begins with a couple hiking in the renowned Bigfoot hotspot of Provo Canyon. While they may not have been looking for a Sasquatch, they certainly find one. The couple spots the creature watching them from a concealed position before it then rises to its full height in what seems to be a threat. The hikers may not speak Sasquatch, but they do speak survival instinct, and they make a break for it the moment the creature begins to reach its full height. Since then, there have been several other sightings in Provo Canyon, including of a Sasquatch Sasquatch throwing rocks at another hiker. Next is Port Renfrew. Vancouver Island has many lush areas of wilderness, including around Port Renfrew, which seems to be one of the last locations of a Sasquatch population on the island. This hiker ended up coming across a very, very hairy situation, if you'll pardon my pun. There, just a dozen meters away, is a creature capable of tearing a tree apart with its bare hands, a creature that is known to hunger for meat. The Sasquatch doesn't seem to notice the hiker and instead is focused on harvesting something from a tree in front of it. Whether that's foliage or sap or grubs, we don't exactly know. Thankfully, this hiker was lucky enough to be able to retrace their steps and escape both without alerting the creature or being injured. Now, for a homesteading horror. Our homes are meant to be our safe spaces, but for homes out in the rural wilderness, there are dangers that can turn your entire homestead into a living horror. This family had been making strange sightings in the distance for some time, but it was after several weeks of unnerving sightings that they finally spotted the creature for sure. The large Sasquatch is seen watching from the edge of the clearing and is no doubt an intimidating sight. After the sighting, the family decided to take more proactive measures to protect themselves and began using fireworks and other loud bangs to ward off the creature, which has seemingly worked as they've made no sightings since. Now for the famed Clingman's Dome. The highest point in Tennessee is likely also one of the most southern points where Sasquatch can be seen. Sasquatch, being the North American species, tend to live in cool environments, their thick fur making life in warmer areas difficult except for set species. And so, in the southern reaches of their range, they often stay restricted to the mountains, where cold air and isolation gives them the best environment to live in. This footage was recorded by some hikers who stopped when they saw a whole crowd of people watching this tree line. The people had said they saw something like a bear walking on two legs, after which some of this stunning footage was captured. The eastern Sasquatch populations are considered to be under extreme threat as habitat loss and warming are putting a greater strain on these creatures to survive. Little else is known of the eastern population, as sightings of the western or midwest populations are simply far more common. Next up are forested remains. A group of hunters near the Banff National Park came across a horrifying encounter with a large Sasquatch nest adorned with the remains of unknown creatures, some of which could have been human. Instead of, I don't know, alerting the authorities, they decide to set up a trail cam watching over the nest, which does end up picking up some pretty incredible footage. We watch as the creature returns to its nest, and yet it can clearly sense something is wrong. It's likely Sasquatch do not have as good vision as us, but what they do have is a significantly better sense of smell. The Sasquatch ends up sniffing out the camera and rips it from the tree. However, the camera was recoverable the next day when the hunters returned for it. And finally, Marble Mountain. This footage was recorded by a leader of a youth group called Campus Life who made a yearly trip out to Marble Mountain. However, in 2001, something special would happen. First, the group would discover a strange shelter constructed in the forest, made of thick pine boughs and branches stacked to create a hovel large enough to fit 2 people or a single Sasquatch. But that wasn't the exciting part. Anyone could have made that shelter. The exciting part comes just a few minutes later when a student calls out that they see something up on the ridge. Way far off in the distance, walking along the ridge of Marble Mountain is some sort of giant bipedal creature. It's easily above the 8-foot mark, judging by the trees that it passes. However, unlike other sightings, this footage actually lasts for quite a long time. It watches the creature cross over the ridge and behind a rock outcropping. This has been considered by many to be among the most definitive pieces of proof available. Others, however, have claimed it's just someone wearing a big coat stumbling over a mountain ridge. What do you think? Up first, the spark to the flame. Sightings have been reported for centuries, but this was the first one to be caught on film and started all the Bigfoot hype way back in 1967. Recorded by filmmakers Rogers Patterson and Gimlin, they had been riding their horses down a Californian trail in the Buff Creek area searching for Bigfoot after reports of recent sightings when they had to dismount to cross over a fallen log. It was lucky that they had, because just as they were crossing, the very creature they were after began to cross in the far clearing. They did manage to set up the camera in time, and though it is initially shaky, they do capture several critical clear seconds. The footage even has a fairly decent resolution of the creature's head and fur, which seems very intriguing and possibly believable. Since then, many have tried to smear and discredit Patterson and Gimlin, but they continue to attest to the truth of the sighting. Next is the swamp monster. Josh Highcliffe was a hunter with a chunk of property 9 miles west of Tunica. On this fateful morning, however, Josh decided that he would be hunting hogs, dogs and so got out into the swamp early that morning. Well before sunrise, he settled in and waited for the pigs to arrive, but it was a few hours later when he heard a shuffling sound and began to prepare to take a pig home. Instead, he would see a massive Sasquatch focused on an old dead cypress tree in the swamp. Immediately, Josh started recording and captured some of the most chilling footage I've ever seen. We truly get to see and hear the incredible strength of this creature as it appears to simply rip this tree trunk to shreds with its bare hands. Highcliffe ran the moment that he could and has allegedly not been back in the forest since. If it weren't for his posting on his own YouTube channel, which has no other videos, this footage likely would have never seen the light of day. Next is the Lettuce Lake legend. Matt initially thought this creature that he spotted while canoeing was a bear. However, after reviewing this footage with the park ranger, they determined that this couldn't be a bear. According to the park ranger, few bears, if any, ever went into the swamp. The creature was seen striding, swimming, and diving through the water and did not seem to notice Matt at first. He has reason to believe that it also isn't a human, as what human would go diving in a fursuit in swamp water filled with 12-foot gators and water moccasins? Eventually, the creature does seem to notice Mark watching it and flees to deeper water before swimming away entirely. Could semi-aquatic swamp apes actually be real? No one expects to be watched by a Sasquatch while they work, but for this oil field worker, that's exactly what happened. He pulled up to a pipeline in the dead of winter to go through some simple diagnostic checks, and everything seems to be fine. He does his checks, gets back in his truck, and drives off. But that's when we see it. A massive 9-foot tall Sasquatch watching him from the trees. The creature has obviously been there for some time, as it's almost covered in fallen snow, and it's likely been keeping watch over a nearby family, protecting them from this oil worker. It's chilling to think that this worker could have been mere meters from a certain end, but thankfully he avoided a grisly fate. He has since apparently suffered harassment from an unknown figure who wants him to take down this footage. Next is the Nightwalker. This footage came from western Montana, released by a family that lives in a home on the edge of the woods. On this night, the family heard horrific screeches and screams coming from the forest, along with loud thumps, bangs, and so the father grabs a camera and, perhaps unwisely, thinking he's the main character, goes out into the trees. He finds a shattered tree that seems to have been smashed to pieces with a rock. While continuing to move deeper into the woods, he then comes across it. Suddenly, and without warning, a massive Sasquatch appears briefly and peers out of the forest at the camera. This is paralyzing footage and is deeply unsettling. It's clear, given the distances involved, that this Sasquatch could easily charge across this short clearing and tear this man limb from limb, and yet it doesn't. It simply stares, grunts, blinks, and then vanishes back into the woods just as quickly as it appeared.
I'm not gonna lie, this is impressive, fake or not. The everyday person is not able to lift a 30 to 50 pound pine tree like that and swing it over its head. Unless someone was purposely training in the gym like that with a barbell, which is roughly the same weight, but this thing picks it up like it's a baseball bat, swings it up and brings it down hard on another stack of branches. I was watching this video and was feeling a little anxious myself. When it looks at the camera, that's where it kind of loses me, because it looks a little too human-like, but has one of the most intense stares I've ever seen, as it locks eyes with us down the barrel of the camera. I couldn't tell you why he's ripping up the forest like this. You know, maybe he's building a little nest to attract some pretty female Bigfoot tests. Even at the end, this guy's height is quite huge, and he's standing next to pine trees. I'm not good at measuring by eye, so I'm gonna leave y'all to figure that one out. Overall, very entertaining video, despite it possibly being fake, because I was impressed by the raw strength. Ain't nothing like the comfort of driving in the middle of the night on a road that's covered in snow, making it even more difficult to even attempt at trying to drive away if something came after you. Thankfully, nothing does for these guys, who apparently spotted a Yeti, which is a part of the same family as a Bigfoot, fun fact, in Russia. This was all caught on camera with their dash cam, and on their drive, spotted, at least what it appears to me, a man ran and jumped over a snowbank, crossed the road, and into the darkness whence it came. This one doesn't appear as tall as the one in the first video, and it looks to be around my height. maybe a younger Yeti? If my height is considered to be an average height of a baby Yeti, I'm going to scream. I think it's clear though that this wasn't CGI at least, because as they get closer to where they spotted the monster, we even get to see the footprints it left behind. At first, it looks like they didn't even realize the footprints were there until they stopped the car and reversed themselves to get a better look. Personally, that's an interesting little thing to have, because the majority of fake videos would either end at the sighting, but adding in such a natural human gesture like that of taking a double take of the footprints just seemed really intriguing to me. It just feels right to include more of the Yeti Bigfoot in these videos due to it being December and around Christmas time. The clip is pretty straightforward. We see what appears to be a white speck make its way across the side of a cliff at a pretty decent speed, and not the usual tempo that people struggle with while their feet are being absolutely vacuumed by the frozen water beneath them. The creators of this video also included some interesting footage of the supposed footprints around the area where it was seen. But this is where it loses me, because when they zoom in on the prints, sure, they look pretty cool at first, but footprints don't usually appear like they're walking on a tightrope. You gotta stagger them, not make them completely straight. I will give you props though, because I'm finding it difficult to how you would have managed to pull it off without leaving any prints yourself. Drone mayhaps? Another beefy boy, but this time he's got some red coloring unlike the usual black majority of us are used to. This video was uploaded to the channel Sasquatch Confessions, so I think the original filmer was left anonymous. From how I'm seeing it, the guy filming happened to find the Sasquatch on a trail path and had originally mistaken it for a bear until it got up and walked away. It seemed to know he was there. I mean, yeah, you're in an open area and you're pointing a camera directly at him, I would notice you too. And then this alleged beast gets up to leave. He is quite the size. Tall? Not so much, but wide? Oh yes, he's got that moto build. Dare I say, he also looks mighty cuddly too. He looks like he's in his bulking phase for hibernation, and I can only imagine the hug I could give this thing. As for convincing me, I'm not sure, because he kind of walks away like he's a giant puppet. No arm swing, no stretching of muscles as he moves. The uploader of this video has the YouTube channel named Gulf Island Rock and titled this finding as Bigfoot Sasquatch sighting near Port Renfrew on Vancouver Island. All that's really given to us is the view of this guy's hairy gray back. Points for giving us another new color to see. Really refreshes the brain after a while of just seeing a sea of black fur. I was really waiting on something exciting for a video that was almost 2.5 minutes long. I was almost hoping the beast would turn around, see the camera guy, and just start chasing him. Something to keep the viewers engaged, you know? If it's fake, the costume design is pretty well done. It doesn't look like those cheap Party City animal outfits where you can see the plastic shine under the light. I give it a good 4 out of 5 on the cosplay aspect, but a 2 out of 10 for intriguing footage. No offense. I'm not the one to judge Bigfoot and what he consumes, but drinking water out of the swamp? You must have a gut of steel to be able to stomach that. All its dangerous organisms and probably leeches that live in there? It seems like this person was on a canoe or something trying to get this shot, because why would you dare walk bare in it? And manage to catch an alleged Bigfoot taking a sip of the yummy swamp water, and then ends up getting a little too silly and starts splashing around in the water. He's just a silly little creepy guy. If this is also some wild animal though, the person who filmed this should be considered lucky that it didn't start charging its way over. This one also seems much smaller than the other Bigfoots we've seen, because I'm always expecting a guy who's at least 10 feet with their feet bigger than my head. This is more like a medium foot from my scientific perspective. What is the sudden wave of these baby foots? We want to see big boys towering over us, whacking pine trees around like the first video. I want to be so scared that I never want to step foot into the woods again. Speaking of, these guys seem to have stumbled upon an itty bitty Sasquatch on a hike somewhere in the Provo Canyon. It doesn't seem to notice them until closer to the end of the video, where the alleged creature stands up and terrifies our crew of hikers. Yes, shaking running camera footage never fails to make the adrenaline rise. Works in every found footage horror movie. But come on guys, this thing doesn't even look that big. It doesn't even have the same muscle mass as the other monsters in this video. I'm not convinced, and I'm disappointed. Show me the big back boys. Here we go, some more big backs. But sadly, this clip is so short, I am unable to fully be immersed in this experience with the uploader. I will give props though that the atmosphere set up for this footage is perfect. We got the fog, we got the cloudy sky that's making it look darker, and we got the snow that reminds us about all the absolute absolute decay that surrounds us. Perfect Yeti footage. This guy looks like a giant snowball because of his round shape and white fur. Another Bigfoot to add onto my list for cuddling. For once, I gotta say I wish this video was a bit more clear. You did a bit too much on the scuff for this one. I can't even make out what the creature is doing to even describe it to y'all. Is it bent over? Is it making snowballs to hurl at you? But I will say, get the heck out of the open area. You are leaving yourself too vulnerable for these things to come and grab you, which you thankfully seem to realize at the end when you freak out and run away. As you should. Our curiosity should only be nurtured for so long.
Starting us off today, we have two campers, Jan and Larry, who claim to have been attacked by Bigfoot while out camping. Like James maybe one day. The pair had encountered another group of campers, some of which had claimed to have seen Bigfoot in the area on previous occasions, including the night before. Around midnight, all the campers went back to their respective tents. Jan and Larry had just zipped up their own tent when they began hearing footsteps coming from the bushes. Before Larry had the chance to check out where the noise was coming from, the sides of his tent began to shake. The Bigfoot was attacking them, aggressively clawing, scratching, pushing, and pulling at the tent. Eventually it moved on, but Jan and Larry will never forget that day. The pair claimed that there are 7 separate Bigfoots living in the area, and they've actually seen and heard the creature on separate occasions too. And they were able to capture photos of the Sasquatch's tracks. The name of the campsite was not disclosed, but the incident happened somewhere in Wisconsin, so do with that information what you will.
This next case comes out of Colorado. So back in 2015, a couple were driving on a desolate road late at night when they felt something bump into their car. They backed up a bit to see what they'd hit, praying that it wasn't a person, but they never expected to see what they saw. They spotted a dark shape on the road, looking like it could have been a bear. They pulled out a phone and started filming their rear view camera, and this is what they captured. Now, whatever this thing is, it's only on camera briefly, but pausing and taking a look at the thing fully upright, rushing towards the car, it looks pretty big. It's hard to get a sense of how big it is because it's pretty far away, but it looks to be taking up quite a big part of that one lane, and it looks fairly tall. What do you guys think though? Sasquatch, dude in a costume, a bear that's maybe learned to move like a human? Let us know down in the comments.
Next up, we have Teddy Roosevelt's retelling of a Bigfoot encounter as told to him by a German hunter named Baumann. The hunter Baumann, along with his friend, had gone out into the remote section of the Montana wilderness with one goal: to trap beavers. The men were likely the only hunters in the woods at the time because, as a general rule of thumb, hunters tended to avoid the area after a fellow trapper had been found mauled in the woods a few months prior. Baumann and his friends did not care. They set up camp and went out to lay their traps, but when they returned to their campsite, it was ransacked. Thinking the mess had been left by a bear, the two didn't really think much of it. Bowman began cooking dinner, and his partner left to investigate some tracks they'd seen. They were massive, and it was clear the creature had been walking on 2 legs. When the pair eventually settled into their tents for the night, they were weary, and rightfully so. They were awakened by an awful smell and the sound of branches breaking around their tent. The following day, the men decided to leave the area. Bowman went to gather the beaver traps while his partner packed up the camp. But when Bowman returned to the campsite, he was greeted by a horrific scene. His friend's body was laid out across the ground with a broken neck and bite marks all over. Bowman knew his friend was dead, and so he hightailed it out of there and lived to tell the tale.
Our next story comes to us from a deleted Reddit user who described their first-hand encounter with what they believe was a Sasquatch. The story goes as follows. So I was on this solo hike near a remote trail in the forest of Oregon. It was a beautiful day, sunny with a hint of a cool breeze, perfect for exploring nature. I've been on this trail before, but today something felt off from the get-go. About an hour into my hike, I started hearing these loud whooping sounds echoing through the trees. At first I brushed it off as some animal calls or maybe even other hikers goofing around, but the thing is, the sound was so intense, almost like they were coming from multiple directions at once. As I kept walking, the whoops turned into something more unsettling. They sounded closer, for one. Then I heard the snapping of branches coming from up the slope, like someone or something was trudging through the underbrush nearby. I stopped in my tracks, trying to listen more closely. That's when I saw rocks being hurled down from above. Luckily, I wasn't near or close enough for them to hit me. Now my fight or flight was kicking in. I couldn't see anything through the thick foliage, but whatever was making those noises was definitely close. My heart was pounding in my chest. I turned around and booked it. I didn't catch a glimpse of whatever was out there, but I can tell you it was the most terrifying experience I've ever had while hiking.
Next up, we have the Bigfoot attacks in the Valley of the Headless Man, which is actually in Canada. The attacks began in 1908. The bodies of 2 headless men appeared in the river of the valley. In 1945, another corpse was found, headless again, and years later a man was found in his sleeping bag, again with no head. While this might seem like the work of some senseless killer, it's important to note that natives in the area fled the land a few years prior to the first deaths, and other native tribes have actively avoided the lands for centuries. Perhaps they knew something those poor men who lost their heads didn't. Many people who have visited the area reported finding large bipedal animal tracks, hearing loud roars and breaking branches, and smelling sulfur and rotten fish, despite being quite far off from the riverbeds. All telltale signs that Bigfoot is near.
Next on the list is the Portlock Bigfoot attacks. Portlock is an abandoned town in Alaska, and as for why it's abandoned, there are a few explanations, one of which has to do with reported attacks of giant hairy ape-like creatures. So in the 40s, the small community of Portlock, Alaska, had a string of unsettling incidents. Doll sheep hunters were disappearing, grisly discoveries of dismembered bodies were being found in the lagoon, and reports were coming in about encounters with an entity known locally as Nantinak, Bigfoot. There have been tales about Bigfoot, or Big Feet, as Hannah refers to them as, in Alaska for decades, and many still believe it's these creatures that caused the town to be abandoned. By 1949, the community of Portlock had dropped as residents left for neighboring villages. Residents have come out with tales of encountering enormous footprints, spotting a towering, hairy figure lurking in the woods, and discovering mutilated bodies of those who ventured into the wilderness.
Next up, we have an anonymous story that was shared with sasquatchchronicles.com by a UK woman who was visiting California on business when she stumbled upon something wild. Well, actually 2 something wilds, because believe it or not, while on a hike, the woman had walked right into the path of 2 massive Bigfoots. At first, she assumed that what she was looking at were some kind of mountain lions, but when the creature stood up on 2 feet, she realized that wasn't the case. These animals were easily over 7 feet tall. They were working together to collect seaweed. They were like eating the roots and then rubbing the seaweed on their fur. I don't know. They were by the waterway where the woman had been hiking. The woman pulled out her camera to snap a few photos, but before she could, the cover on her camera lens fell and it made its way down to where the animals had been. The larger of the 2 was furious. He began charging at the woman, and she thought for sure that these were her last moments, but the smaller of the 2 intervened. The 2 screeched at each other for a while, almost like they were speaking in some kind of gibberish language, before they retreated back to the woods. The woman somehow made her way quickly back to her car. She really can't remember the walk there. She was so dazed, but she feels lucky to be alive. However, she regrets not getting that photograph.
Next on the list, we have the Ape Canyon case. So this incident from 1924 is a tale from the Pacific Northwest of the United States that's become one of the most famous Sasquatch sightings in cryptozoology circles. According to the story, a group of miners claimed to have encountered a group of large, almost 7-foot tall, hairy, ape-like creatures in the vicinity of Mount St. Helens in Washington. The incident supposedly took place in Ape Canyon, which is what it's now called. A group of miners led by Fred Beck claimed to have been attacked by these mysterious creatures. Beck and his companions said that they had shot at the creatures in self-defense after being pelted with rocks, and later a bunch of these hairy creatures retaliated by attacking their cabin. The miners went outside the following day to find giant-sized footprints in the ground. Some believe the creatures described by Beck and his group were Sasquatch, or Bigfoot, or Big Feet, while others think it was all just a big, elaborate hoax.
What is the plural of Bigfoot, you guys? Let me know in the comments. Next up, we have the attack of the folk monster. That's not a swear word, that's the name of the monster. And don't come for me, but it's basically Arkansas's version of Bigfoot, or Arkansas, as James would say. The folk monster, also known as the Boggy Creek monster or the swamp stalker, is a massive bipedal ape-like creature with massive feet and a foul smell. Sound familiar? Exactly. In the spring of 1971, two young couples moved into the town of Folk, Arkansas, and rented a small house near a creek. It wasn't long before the couples noticed something wasn't right. They would often hear heavy footsteps coming from their front porch, and one night it seemed as though some kind of animal was attempting to gain access to their home. As the days went on, the pairs would often find massive three-toed footprints in the area around their house, and then one evening they saw the creatures, massive, shaggy, smelly, standing tall on 2 feet. The creature again attempted to gain entry to the couple's homes, but one of the men fired at the creature, causing it to turn on the other man, who was badly injured and required medical attention after the ordeal. The police got involved but were unable to locate the massive animal, and this event actually marks the only medically documented attack by a cryptid on a human in North America. So, it's legit, you guys.
Next we have more footage of a Bigfoot chasing a car, this time in Russia. Now, I say Bigfoot, there's a very good chance it's just a dude in a costume, or just some crazy person chasing the car, because it's that low quality of a video, like pretty much all Sasquatch videos are. So the footage was taken in 2016, and we see someone filming the side of a rural road with their phone camera. The people already sound frantic, like they've seen something before they started filming. Then you see this dark figure start ambling towards the car, and they drive off. But then they decide to stop the car and try to see if they can get a good shot of the creature again. Take a look.
Он бежит. Лёша, кто закрыл?
In October 2023, a Bigfoot video filmed in Colorado went viral online. Sensen Parker and his wife Shannon recently took a trip through Colorado to celebrate their 10th anniversary. They boarded the Durango and Silverton narrow gauge railroad and saw something unexpected. Bigfoot. Now the video, which was taken by a fellow passenger and posted online by Sensen, shows a tall, brownish creature walking and squatting before it blends into its surroundings. Now the footage is zoomed in, making for a grainy video. Now to him, Stenson said, the creature didn't look like a human, it didn't move like a person, he said. It looked more like an ape, but it didn't walk like an ape so much. He added that the creature's arms seemed too long to be human, with hands reaching down to its knees. It didn't look like anything I've ever seen before, he said. I don't think it was a hoax, and if it was a really good one. Up next, we have the Mississippi Woods sighting. A video that has resurfaced and gone viral seemingly shows a Sasquatch moving through the Mississippi woods. It was recorded and posted on YouTube back in 2015 by Josh Highcliffe. In the caption, Josh wrote, "I was out hunting hogs and wearing hunting camo and just sitting dead still waiting for it to get dark, and I hear a noise behind the tree I was sitting on. I thought it was the hogs, and when I got around, I could not believe my own eyes." He added there was this huge black thing crouched by a dead cypress about 50 yards away. I saw these shoulders and a head upright with hands. It looked like it was digging out a sump. My first instinct was to run. I did not even think of shooting. Then I know no one will believe me, but it was like everything slowed down. I was scared. I took my iPhone and started videotaping it. I heard a truck driving down the road and the thing stood up. I was trying to be dead quiet, and when it stood up, I could not control myself and ran. The stump was huge, and I guess the sucker was 7 feet tall. I am a hunter, and I'm pretty darn good at guessing size. Wow, that is crazy. Now let's discuss the Owen Sound sighting. Ryan Willis and Joel Porter co-host a TV show called Sasquatch University, where they've gotten credible sightings in Owen Sound. They started the Trent University Sasquatch Society, which zooms in scientists and others to talk to the Peterborough Club, hearing from all the top researchers in the Bigfoot community, said Willis, who is president. They've received reports, and quite credible ones too, which they thought would make a good episode for the show, he said. Now their hunt was to be conducted just 4 minutes west of Owen Sound, where the encounter happened, Willis said. One had a road crossing sighting, and it was like behind a sign at the other side of the road. It didn't actually cross the road, clarified Porter. Now the beast must have been 11 feet tall, given it was reported peeking over a 9 or 10 foot sign. Now a separate local sighting came from someone someone who viewed the big fellow through a window, Porter added. Now, they weren't able to capture it on video, but they said they are determined to capture the proof. Moving on to the Provo Canyon sighting. There are many Bigfoot videos on YouTube, but one particular clip is from Provo Canyon, Utah. The video appears to show a large black animal hunched over in the trees, possibly feeding or foraging. Now, the camera zooms in to try to get a closer look, and a few seconds later, the great creature stands up on its two legs as if it's bipedal. Now, the video was posted on October 30th, 2012, and has amassed more than 7.6 million views on YouTube. Now, according to the account uploader, the pair were on a camping trip hoping to get a closer look at a deer on a hill. On our way up, we thought we saw a bear, until the monster stood up and looked right at us. We ran straight to the car after that, leaving our tent and everything behind. It's probably all still up there. Now we have the Minnesota Bigfoot. In October of 2023, there was a Bigfoot sighting in Minnesota. The people who saw it said this: "While my mother and I were grouse hunting up by Benna on 6 Mile Lake Road in the Mud Goose Management area, we both witnessed a Bigfoot. We were traveling and my mom said, 'Whoa, back up.' Down trail 2266 near the bend, we see a Bigfoot off the trail in the grassy ditch, and it slowly moved off the trail west to east. My mom asked me if it felt like it moved in super slow motion. I concurred. The ditch at the site was 3 feet down, and the grass at the side of the trail was 3 feet tall, and the upper torso was 3 to 4 feet showing above the grass, leading the Bigfoot to be approximately 8 to 10 feet tall. We drove to the spot and both noticed a strong sulfur or rotting vegetation. When I got out of the car, I immediately felt all the hair stand up on my body. I checked for any sign of footprints on the road, and I could not see any due to the gravel being very packed down. There was a small bit of gravel disturbed in one spot near the west side of the road shoulder. We later got stopped by the conservation officer, and when we mentioned what we had seen and where it was, he remarked that's where people have reported seeing a Bigfoot. My mother and I have no doubt that we saw one." Now let's talk about the Tennessee Bigfoot. In 2022, a man filmed what is believed to be Bigfoot in Tennessee. Footage shows a huge black creature with super long arms moving about in a wooded area. Now, as ever with these things, the footage isn't exactly the clearest, but there's definitely some weird creature hanging around there. According to Bigfoot Input, the man said he first thought it was a friend playing a prank, but once he saw the length of its arms and how it moved from tree to tree, he quickly grabbed his daughter and ran back inside. He said he got out one of his weapons and a dog and went back outside, but the creature had gone. Now, the video has been shared on social media, where it's gotten people baffled and questioning what it could be. One person said, "What gets me is how it grabs one tree and then stretches the other arm to grab the other. I've heard of that before. Long arms, and I noticed the broad shoulders that you'll see a Bigfoot having that a hunter in a suit does not have." Now, everyone was convinced it was Bigfoot, and I say, I have to agree. To start off, Florida Bigfoot is our next sighting. To start off the new year in 2017, a man claimed to have spotted Bigfoot. A fisherman claimed to have seen and photographed Bigfoot while it allegedly sat in a few feet of the murky, swampy Hillsborough River outside of Tampa, Florida. Then on January 25th, Matthew McCamey and his friend claimed to have seen Bigfoot while canoeing in a swamp that day in Lettuce Lake Park near Tampa, Florida. Now, perhaps they saw the same Bigfoot who was just roaming the area. Now, the two men took a canoe into one of the many swampy inlets of Lettuce Lake Park, and around 1 p.m. they heard a noise accompanied by tree movement. Matthew grabbed his phone and started videotaping. Initially, it was exciting, and it was like, "Oh, is that a bear? That's pretty cool," he said. When we moved up closer, it started to look less and less like a bear. You could tell he was slapping the water, and it looked like maybe he was grabbing something. At the time, I was just thinking, holy what the hell is this? He said that his friend was so shaken by the experience that he still won't talk about it. Now, at one point in the video, the friend moved one of the canoe paddles, making a noise, which seemed to catch the attention of the hairy individual in the swamp. Matthew added, "Where the video cut off is basically where I stopped taping. We wanted to leave, and I couldn't do both video and row." Moving on to the California Bigfoot. In 2001, a youth group was camping in the Marble Mountain Wilderness, California, when their leader, Jim Mills, noticed a strange-looking creature sulking along a ridge nearby. He believed it was Bigfoot and filmed it for nearly 7 minutes, making the somewhat grainy footage the longest footage of an alleged Bigfoot sighting. The video shows Bigfoot walking down a hill, and some think this video is legit and is one of the longest known Bigfoot videos ever captured before. The video has been considered legitimate and has has not been tampered with. What makes this video interesting is there were multiple witnesses, but everyone in the video is shockingly calm though, which is just like crazy to me. Now, it's unknown if this youth group returned back to this location or if anyone else was brought in to investigate there, and officially, if evidence was documented, it might have been quietly swept under the rug. Next up, we have the Canada sighting. In 2022, a video shared on the YouTube channel of the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization, RSMO, shows what they claim is yet another in a long line of Bigfoot sightings. This particular footage, taken by boaters in northern Ontario, Canada, doesn't come with a lot of details. There's been a lot of Bigfoot activity in Ontario, Canada recently, and there's also a long history of Bigfoot sightings in this wild remote area recently, the person from RMSO says in the video. We have seen a lot of photos and videos of Bigfoot in the area, and here is one of the latest Bigfoot sightings captured by some boaters. Now, the commenters truly believe that the evidence is real. The ease of walking up the rocky pile and subsequent gait afterwards is not how a human walks. Very compelling, one viewer wrote. Wow, he is huge, looks to be 8 or 10 feet tall. Scary just watching this, commented another. And last on our list, we have the traffic cam Bigfoot. A Washington Department of Transportation traffic camera near Sherman Pass captured Bigfoot standing in the snow in January 2020. Sasquatch spotted, the WSDOT Twitter account tweeted, along with 3 circled and zoomed in photos. I'm not superstitious, just a little stitious. The WSDOT employee points out that there appears to be something in the bottom left part of the frame. It looks like a person-shaped figure silhouetted against an evergreen tree. Might be Sasquatch, the tweet says. We will leave that up to you. Now, one image shows the figure circled in red, and the tweet also says that the photos were captured on State Road 20 Sherman Pass, a route that winds its way through the forested Cascade Mountains in the northeastern part of the state. The spot is about 70 kilometers south of the Canada-US border in Grand Forks, BC. Now, I'm sure Bigfoot didn't realize that there was a traffic cam there, and hopefully he's more careful.
And we're starting off the list with the Alabama sighting. So I tried to throw in some recent sightings for this list because we've all seen the famous Patterson footage. It's cool, but good to change things up a bit. So this one was reported by an elderly couple in Claiborne County, Alabama, and was posted on the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization website. The witnesses stated, "My husband and I heard strange sounds for 2 nights in February of 2023 and laughed about how they sounded like the Bigfoot sounds on television shows. The 3rd night at dusk, we were in our carport looking into the woods that border our property in Helphin, Claiborne County, Alabama. We saw what looked like Bigfoot peeking around a tree at us. We watched it for approximately 5 minutes as it appeared to look at us from the left and then right of the tree trunk. I dismissed it as being a distortion within the trees and wind, turned to go into the house and looked back and distinctly saw what could only be Bigfoot running away. I yelled for my husband and he also saw it running away. It had our hearts beating wildly and the hair standing up on our arms. There was no mistaking what we saw." At our number 9 spot, we have our first piece of Squatch footage for you. In this clip, you can clearly see a very large, hairy creature strolling through a wooded area. Now, what I like about this one is the shape of the creature. If this is someone in a costume, it's a pretty good one. It doesn't have the proportions of a human. It's very gorilla-like. This is a thick Squatch too, packing some gains in the tushy area. But also the back is massive and its head is like hunched in front. With so many supposedly real Bigfoot sightings videos, like the quote-unquote Bigfoot, rarely looks like it's carrying the weight of a massive sized hominid. Usually Bigfoot videos just look very blurry to make sense of anything too, or when you do see the creature, it just lacks the bulk that's often reported in first-hand Bigfoot accounts, just like a person in a cheap gorilla suit. But this one doesn't look human. A solid video, even if it is a hoax. At number 8, we have the Minerva monster case. In 1978, in Minerva, Ohio, the Caton family reported encountering a large, Bigfoot-like creature near their home. Their account included rocks thrown at their house and the discovery of enormous footprints in their backyard. Their dog was also mysteriously died just mauled. This was not an isolated incident though. Several neighbors and other residents in the area also claimed sightings of a similar hairy creature around that same time, and this series of encounters became widely known as the Minerva Monster case, drawing significant media attention. Jim Shannon, a former Stark County sheriff who had responded to one of the Caton family's distress calls, expressed his belief in their reports, stating that they were terrified. I will always believe them that they saw something. It's just, what did they see? At number 7, we have another recent sighting, also posted to the BFRO, this time in Wisconsin. The sighting happened on May 28th, 2023. A woman had been driving down a road in the early morning in Oconto County when she spotted the creature. This area in northern Oconto County, Wisconsin, is mostly wooded with swamp near the Oconto River. As I near the corner, I saw a black and brown large figure of a man that I thought may have been someone that broke down on the trail as it was walking south towards Peshtigo Brook Road. I stopped at the corner as I could not believe what I was looking at, trying to wrap my head around it and convince myself it was a man, as it was walking on 2 legs and had taken from what I saw about 10 steps toward me. However, there was no sound, no yelling for help or waving the arms, and no human-colored skin. It was in fact a dark black and brown figure with large legs, and even at the base towards the feet. It was hairy. It was not a bear though, and it was not a human. I looked around the corner and could see in the distance down North Branch Road that a human was walking east towards me in that direction. I then looked back, and the large black-brown figure went into the ditch and disappeared. I was convinced it had to be a Sasquatch. Number 6. Help, I think I saw a skunk ape. This video was posted to YouTube by Josh Highcliffe and is probably one of the most convincing Bigfoot, or in this case technically skunk ape, pieces of footage in recent years. The video was taken about 9 miles west of Tunica, Mississippi at around 6 p.m. in October of 2013. Josh had been hunting for hogs when he spotted the creature. He'd been sitting on a log waiting for the sun to go down when he heard strange noises coming from behind him, and when he turned around, he spotted this large, dark, furry creature digging out the stump of a dead tree. Now, I gotta say, I try to be skeptical when it comes to things like this. Cryptids, ghosts, whatever. But this video is pretty convincing. That looks like an animal messing around in the forest to me. Creepiest part is when the thing stands up and you see that it's way taller than you thought, and it was at this point that our cameraman was convinced that this was not a bear and decided to get the hell out of there. Number 5, Backyard Bigfoot. The following is a story shared to Reddit by user Bigfoot Watcher. Post is from 9 years back, and they wrote the following. 2 nights ago, my boyfriend went out to take the dogs out back. My one dog started barking like crazy right away. My boyfriend had a flashlight and quickly scanned the grass line where the woods start, where we normally see deer. Our house is bordered by woods. Something made him shine a bit higher, and he sees 2 eyes staring back at him, about 9 feet off the ground. As my boyfriend tries to hurry the dogs back inside, he sees the thing turn and casually walk back into the woods like a man, with arms and shoulders. I've never seen my boyfriend so freaked out. He came inside and closed every single window and all the blinds, and refuses to let the dogs out in the backyard at night anymore. In hindsight, there have been a few instances in the past few weeks that we can't explain, like dogs' toys being down by the woods with bites taken out, but it was the placement of the toys and whatnot that makes us wonder. Also, a grunt snort noise we heard recently. My boyfriend cannot get over the size of this thing and the fact that the eyes were so high off the ground. I asked him if he thought he saw Bigfoot, and he said after a minute or so of silence, if I wasn't a believer before, I sure as hell am one now. Next on the list, we have the nighttime Bigfoot. I'm not 100% sold on this next clip, but it is pretty harrowing at the same time. Check this out. So you have people filming in the woods in the middle of the night. They've obviously heard something because they're scanning the woods with their camera, trying to spot whatever it is. And then this pops up. A big, hairy Sasquatch creature with a really creepy looking face. One little touch I like about this video is that you actually see it blink. It definitely makes it more convincing. I feel like if I saw this, I wouldn't be sticking around though. After the creature trudges back into the trees, they just kind of stand there breathing heavily. But I don't know, maybe they were shocked, frozen in fear. Anyway, what do you think of this one? Let me know in the comments. At number 3, we have another account posted to the BFRO. This one happened in September of 2018 in Whitmore, California. The man described his experience as follows. I was driving up to work from Redding. I worked at a school in Whitmore, California, in Shasta County. That was only accessible from a logging road. As I was going up the mountain, I rounded a corner, and about 300 feet from me and maybe 400 feet from Tintago Lane, a tall, hairy creature, dark brown with some gray along the back shoulders, walking on 2 legs, crossed the road, which is wide enough for 2 cars to pass each other, in about 2 steps, and then was in the woods. The hair on the back of my neck instantly stood up, and I was terrified. I had my 11-month-old son in the back seat, and I drove to campus as quickly as I could. There were major wildfires in the area at this time. Maybe it was trying to get away from the fires or incredibly unhealthy smoke. Several of my coworkers on that campus have had experiences as well. Alright, this next video was uploaded to the YouTube channel Beard Card in 2012 and has since received millions of views. A group of friends had gone camping in Provo Canyon. They'd seen some deer on a hill and went to get a closer look. There they spotted what they thought was a bear. You can hear them whispering to each other in the video. I mean, like seeing a bear, that would obviously be pretty nerve-wracking as is. But then the thing stands up, and once again becomes very clear that what they are looking at is not a bear. The thing is very wide. It doesn't look like it has the proportions of a human at all, at least not a regular sized one. It really, I don't know, just the idea of seeing something in the woods, you don't know what it is. This video really gets that across, and the reactions just seem genuine, like, oh, like they thought it was a bear the entire time, and then it stands up and they're like, okay, go. Anyway, coming in at number 1, we have the Harley Hoffman footage. I remember seeing this clip years ago. It was edited into an interview with Harley Hoffman, a Bigfoot explorer, researcher, enthusiast, I guess. I couldn't find the footage again until recently. This is footage that he captured. It's a pretty solid piece of footage too. You get a good glimpse of the creature. It doesn't look like just some guy in a cheap gorilla costume either. There actually looks like some musculature underneath the fur, much like the famous Patterson footage, which is why that footage is so famous. It doesn't look like just a guy in a suit. Now, there is some shaky cam going on here, but I have a hard time imagining if you actually came across a giant ape in the middle of the forest that you'd be calm enough to do some nice smooth Stanley Kubrick level of camera work, so that doesn't bother me too much.